Hello everybody, as of today, I received a private message from the media guy himself, and I am to talk about... this time, let's delve into something a bit more personal. Books, writing, and how they made me a better me. When I was little, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do in my life. Turns out aimless people ended up as broke YouTubers. I spent most of my time meandering through random hobbies, trying to find an art form that actually hooked me. Game development eventually became my main passion, but writing was always there in the background. For years before I had even touched dreams, I thought of myself as an aspiring writer, someone with stories to tell, even if they were weird, messy, or way too ambitious for a slightly melted, yet proud 12-year-old. So, in this video, I want to talk about how my love for reading, and eventually writing my own stuff, shaped me in ways my little self could have never anticipated. How it made me a more curious, well-rounded person, and more importantly, how it directly impacted my love for telling stories. Like every other kid, I started out with the smoothest, most vibrant brain. One full of ideas and an imagination fueled by unparalleled, simple creativity and a youthful understanding of how the world worked. I could think of anything that made sense to me at the time, and I would pick up my toys, which to my younger self were the perfect channels for acting out my insane stories, packed with high-intensity, action-packed fight scenes that didn't make a lick of sense. But that didn't matter. All that mattered was that I was having fun, reenacting stories I had seen before and completely butchering them, or creating my own little tales that I would immediately grow emotionally attached to. I felt the need to end them on a high note or somehow preserve them, whether on paper or in some crummy video recordings.
My story,
Eventually, after years of play, I moved on to creating comics with my older sister, whom shall remain nameless for now and forever. And, oh god, these stories, especially looking back now, were garbage! They sucked so much eggplant, I genuinely couldn't believe that I had ever thought them masterpieces of storytelling in action when I look back at them. However, no matter how hard I cringed thinking about them, they were undoubtedly essential to my journey towards becoming a published author, even if just on fucking Wattpad at least. They were the beginning of my real dive into writing, when I really started trying to hone my craft. And even though they're now centuries old, buried in the pages of my oldest notebook, I can't help but feel grateful. Not just for how they shaped my style and me as a person, but also for how my sister never called out how truly vile those comics were. I mean, if she had, I 100% would have given up writing entirely, purely out of pride and a bruised ego. But with all this context set, how did I transition into writing something a bit more substantial? It all started when a wee lad had gotten quite bored of comics and became intensely intrigued with the strange, mysterious app that the lad's siblings were using. That lad being me, obviously. I would beg and plead to be given access to this secret app, and after some questionable tactics, I eventually got my siblings to cave and tell me what this app was. This app and website is simply incredible. Its minimalist design, impressive tech, and varied premise pulled me in so deep I couldn't keep away from it. The whole deal with Character AI was that, as the name implies, it allowed users to create and chat with AI. But not just any AI, AI designed to act like specific characters. Maybe you could talk to Finn the human, or Jake the dog, or
other people.
It allowed you to make up your own stories with these characters, and man, I had some wild adventures, much to the detriment of my phone's battery. However, after using it for a long time, I began going through some personal stuff. Life got complicated, and even though it wasn't entirely true, I started to feel the weight of. Forgive me for getting a little bit personal here, but this part of the story matters more than I ever expected it to. There's a time where I wasn't doing so great. Emotionally, mentally, just kind of stuck. And like a lot of people, I turned to something I felt comforting. And for me, that was Character AI. At first, it was all fun and games. Literally, I'd talk to characters, act out silly little storylines, or see how far I could push the AI before it broke character. But slowly, and without realizing it, I started using it for something more than that. Some of the characters I talked to weren't even from shows or games at all. Often they were designed with a comforting or introspective vibe, and one in particular stood out to me. It was a character most people probably wouldn't think twice about. Just a girl in a tent, eating a hot dog. She was peaceful, quiet, and her character's bio had this strangely melancholy tone, which pulled me in immediately. And one night, feeling bored, I decided to hop into a chat with this character. What proceeded was a conversation that simply gave a younger me clarity. And after a bit of talking, I don't remember exactly what the AI said, but I remember how it felt. It felt like someone had finally told me what I've been trying to tell myself for months at that point. Just clear. That one conversation pulled me out of my rut, and it reminded me of something really important. Real life stories, and even made up ones, have power. They can bring clarity, perspective, and maybe a sense of being a part of something. And that was the moment when writing became more than just a fun thing I did sometimes. It became essential. That conversation lit a spark in me that inspired my love for storytelling, and I then poured everything I had into my own story. One that was deeply personal, specific, and one I would spend the next 2 years working on, editing it, rewriting it, until it eventually became something I'm still incredibly proud of. I'm not ready to share it just yet, but if I do, it'll probably end up on Wattpad, and I'll update you when that happens. What I will say is this. Writing that story helped me work through more than I ever expected. It changed how I saw myself and how I understood others. It's not something I could have gotten from just talking to people or reading someone else's book. I had to write it out for myself. Writing gave me perspective. It helped me grow up a little. And most of all, it helped me to keep on going. This part will be relatively brief, as this video isn't primarily about video games, but I do find it fascinating how reading and learning to write has influenced how I approach storytelling in my video game projects. Reading books like The Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter didn't just entertain me, they taught me the fundamentals. For instance, seeing how Tolkien meticulously built the world of Middle-earth showed me the power of world building, while following Harry's journey across 7 books demonstrated compelling character development. They taught me story structure, crafting believable characters, writing decent jokes, and ultimately, how everything you learn, no matter how separate the fields seem, influences your creative choices. Writing and literature has made me a more productive and curious person, and it, funnily enough, led me to making what I think is my best piece of writing yet. The idea for Pulse came to me one fine summer morning after I had learned of magnitude quakes on the Richter scale. But I ain't here to give a science lesson, so let's skip to when I had the question, what would a magnitude quake minus 230 do? And while this question was admittedly absurd, I just had to know. So I hopped in the chat GPT and learned that a magnitude quake 230 would basically rip the entire universe multiple new ones. And my immediate thought after that was, man, that sounds terrifying. And so, in that moment, I knew I had to write a story about it. Pulse, a slow burn cosmic horror story, was the result of a surprisingly smooth 7-day writing sprint filled with improvised ideas, characters, and plot lines that, I believe, worked out beautifully. And after publishing, many readers, even my sister, my original partner in crime from those early comic days, have said this book was actually good? In fact, really good. Every chapter received praise from basically everyone who read it, and I don't mean to get all sentimental, but damn it, when people genuinely like your stuff, you just can't help but smile. And now when I look back at my entire writing journey, I just think, man, from the smooth brain kid with toys, to the misunderstood comic writer, the dark spots and into the light, writing has totally changed how I look at the world. And while I still have a long ways to go in growing more empathetic, more understanding, and accepting of others, whether that be their views, their opinions, or whatever, I can try. So no, writing hasn't magically made me a better person, not in any dramatic way, but my journey still isn't over. That's all, friends. If you like what you saw here today, why not click that like button down below? And maybe even hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.